What is up? Welcome to this live edition of Kuz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis surrounding the West Virginia Mountaineers. And occasionally, we'll talk a little bit about the Big 12. And in this live edition, we're going to talk about both. We're going to talk about the Big 12's brand new private credit deal. Notice I did not say private equity deal, and that's something we need to clear up in this show. But the Big 12's new private credit deal that they are close, at least, to finalizing. They have not finalized it yet. It is not a done deal, but it does look like they are approaching the final stages. But we're going to talk about that deal. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, break it down, tell you what the details are, why it's a good idea, why it could be risky. And then I'll give you my thoughts, on West Virginia specifically. There's an opt-in part of this. Should they opt in, and what would it mean if they do or if they don't? That's what we're talking about in this live edition. As always, if you're in the chat room and you want to make sure I see your comment, you can always drop a super chat, hit the $sign near the chat box. It highlights your comment. I will be sure to see it and will do my best to address it. Otherwise, I will get to as many chats as I can once I get through my opening thoughts, my monologue, whatever you want to call it. Because if I stop in the middle of that, sometimes I tend to get off track because my brain, that's just how it works, okay? I can only focus on one thing at a time. But anyway, we're going to jump into this. This is something I find fascinating. I actually thought about doing a live show last night, but I was tired. I had family here. I thought, you know what? I'll wait and do it tomorrow after I've had a good night's sleep. So let's go ahead and dive into this deal. Ross Dellinger wrote an article over at Yahoo Sports. The Big 12 is inching closer to finalizing a up to $500 million private credit deal. It's not a private equity deal. There is no ownership stake in this. That's something a lot of people seem to be missing, glossing over. The Big 12 and its teams will remain full owners of the league and its assets, okay? It's a private credit deal. Let's keep going. And a strategic partnership. That's part of it as well. It's described as a low-risk venture with tremendous upside is how the league describes it. So low risk, high reward is how they view this model. Apparently, all the presidents and chancellors have given Brett Yormark the go-ahead to enter the final stages of this thing. They've given him the green light. They basically just have to finish out some contracts and some paperwork and whatnot. So we don't know exactly what the timeline is of all that. We know sometimes that stuff takes time. But it looks like they are at least nearing the finish line. Now, we all know what could happen. We all saw what happened with the Big Ten. There were two schools that stepped up at the last minute and said, not happening. They killed the deal, basically. Hopefully that doesn't happen. We all know Utah had just earlier this week announced a deal of their own worth $500 million, where they're actually selling some ownership stake. They're setting up a for-profit entity to run their athletic department, and they're basically selling an ownership stake in that entity to a private equity firm. This deal is different. That's probably why the Utah deal is paying out so much money for just one team, because there's an ownership stake in it. Obviously, an ownership stake, you get more money. That's how these things work. I've seen a lot of people question it. Well, the Big 12 is only getting $500. Stop it. It's a different deal. It's not the same. The Big 12 is not giving up ownership of anything, at least not right now, the way it appears, based on what I've read. Okay? Plus, the $500 million is probably spread out over time. This up to $500 million would be a upfront cash infusion as part of this deal. Each team could get up to $30 million. That's actually it's a three-pronged deal. That's one prong of it. Each team could get up to $30 million apiece if they opt into that. They don't have to do it. It would basically be a $30 million loan, essentially. It would be a credit loan, line of credit. They would have to pay back. It's a low-interest line of credit. They would have to pay back eventually. But nonetheless, it is a line of credit. So there is something in that for the RedBird Weatherford Capital partnership. They would get, obviously, the interest on that loan. But let's go ahead and talk about the three prongs to this deal. Obviously, I mentioned that one. The other two are RedBird will infuse millions into the Big 12 office as an initial step to help drive commercial business or even create new businesses and lead to the league investing in companies. Now, does that mean they're going to set up a third-party entity just like Utah did? Possibly. But it also seems more flexible. There's a lot of things they can do Didn't really go into a lot of detail. Now, I am going to give you a little bit more detail. I think you can find a little bit more detail by going over to, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll get there in a minute. I mentioned the $30 million loan to the schools. They don't have to opt in. There's a lot of thought out there that teams like BYU likely won't opt in. There's thoughts that maybe Texas Tech doesn't opt in because they don't feel like they need it, which is fair. The question is, though, and Greg Pflugar mentioned this on his show last night, if they don't opt in, do they still get to participate in the rest of the strategic partnership deal? I would imagine they do, but we don't know the answer to that question. The third prong to this, third piece of this is it would be a strategic partnership between the league and this RedBird Weatherford Capital venture to further evolve the league office in a more professionalized environment. And it said the Big 12 used Moelis as its banker. Moelis is apparently a corporate banker. They helped with this deal. And by the way, that came directly from Ross Dunder's article, the way I worded that there. So basically, you get a partnership. RedBird and Weatherford is the private equity firm but again, it's not a private equity deal here. RedBird and Weatherford are two separate private equity firms, private capital firms, whatever you want to call them, that are joining together to do business with the Big 12. They are going to infuse. It also said they could infuse the conference office with cash up front as well, so the teams could benefit from that. But the league is going to evolve into a more professionalized model, and they're going to need money to do that. It's going to help. It also opens the door for them to get in more business relationships, more sponsorship deals, more ad deals, those types of things. They can leverage the relationships that RedBird and Weatherford have with corporate America to do that. Maybe the Big 12 even takes ownership stake in some of these companies and can actually profit off of them. Now, they might have to set up a for-profit entity to do that, but maybe that's part of this deal too. We don't know. Again, there's a lot of details missing here. But again, Brett Yormark has been trying to land a deal like this for the last 2 to 3 years, and it appears that the conference office has been working on this for over a year behind the scenes. And they're finally able to find a deal that appears at least to work for majority, if not all, of the conference membership. And Utah, by the way, this does not affect their deal. They could opt into this deal and their own deal too, which gives them an even greater advantage. But don't be surprised if you see individual schools also doing their own deal in addition to this, because schools are cash strapped. I don't think people understand how desperate these schools are for money. I know I see a lot of fans on social media talking about how you should never touch this. It's bad news. Don't get in bed with private equity. I get all that. But guys, gals, private equity seems to be growing in popularity for a reason. I don't think every private equity firm is the devil out there. If it didn't work, it wouldn't still exist. The NFL even uses private equity firms. I mean, it's not the New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, Tampa Bay Rays. There are a lot of the professional soccer organizations. The UFL, there are so many. You'd be surprised how much private equity already has their hands in sports. Now the college is coming along to join that fray. Now, again, I know us traditionalists don't like it, but we just have to accept it. And if you want to be competitive, if the Big 12 wants to compete with the SEC and the Big 10, you better do something like this, because you're not going to get the TV deal they have, at least not without something like this, which I'm kind of hinting at something, but we'll get to in a minute. But unless you want to do something like this, how are you going to compete when you're sitting there with a $30 million TV deal and they're sitting there with an $80 to $90 to $100 million TV deal per team? You can't compete with that. And not only that, you're trying to salvage your athletic department. You're trying to save sports inside your athletic department, because you've got that $20 million albatross hanging over your head. And that's the rev share piece. That's not even counting the back pay piece that was part of that House settlement, where they have to pay former athletes NIL money. A lot of people don't even mention that part of it. That's a lot of money too. And these athletic departments are basically breaking even at best, and many are even in the red. Ohio State operates in the red a lot of years, and they have I think their budget's near $1 million or something, or billion. I mean, I'm not even. It's way up there. So they need cash. They need money, and by partnering with companies like RedBird and Weatherford, they can help you find ways to get money. They can benefit from it whatever revenue they help you earn, they can take a cut of it. That's how these things work. I see nowhere in here where they're giving any ownership of anything to these companies. Now, I know Greg last night mentioned on his show that he feels like they'll set up a for-profit entity and give Weatherford and RedBird a piece of that. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I want to dive in a little bit to talk a little bit more about Weatherford and RedBird and exactly who they are and what they do. When you look at there's an entity called College Athletic Solutions that is an actual merger, or a partnership rather, not merger. It's a partnership between Weatherford and RedBird that was set up in 2024. And here on Weatherford's website, here's what it says about College Athletic Solutions. It says, in light of these inevitable seismic shifts, talking about college sports, because I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm just going to read you this piece. We are thrilled to introduce Collegiate Athletic Solutions, a partnership between RedBird Capital and Weatherford Capital that will directly address the ever-expanding need for smart capital investment in athletic departments across the country. We will provide dedicated capital and a business-building platform for public and private university athletic departments and act as a trusted advisor to university presidents, CFOs, and athletic directors. CAS will equip leaders with the strategies and resources to operate more efficiently and professionally, pinpointing opportunities for development and giving their athletic programs the ability to compete at the highest level. Right there tells you what they're going to do. They're going to be advisors. They're going to help them set up business building platforms. They're going to help them with all kinds of different things. Equip their leaders with strategies and resources. One of those resources is cash. What do they get back? Again, they likely get back a piece of the profits that the conference makes. Let's keep going. CAS is focused on the future growth of athletic departments, understanding that wise capital investment will fuel a given school or conference's ability to build a competitive edge in a disrupted environment. Our mission at CAS is to offer athletic departments a unique capital solution to invest when and where they see fit to compete at the highest level during this tenuous paradigm shift. Now, that shows you that the CAS, Collegiate Athletic Solutions, which it sounds like the Big 12 is going to be a part of, it's kind of a flexible investment deal, right? The conference is going to be able to have some flexibility on what partnerships they want to get into. Where do they see need and where do they see a fit for their league? It sounds like RedBird and Weatherford with this CAS, this Collegiate Athletic Solutions, is going to allow the Big 12 to do that. It doesn't sound like they're going to strong arm them into anything. At least, again, maybe I'm naive here, but I just don't see this as the devil. They're not selling their soul, at least on the surface, on paper. Now, let's dive a little deeper. Who is RedBird Capital and Weatherford Capital? Well, I dug into who RedBird Capital is and what companies they have an ownership stake in, and some of this stuff really, really makes you understand or made me understand exactly why this is such a big deal for the Big 12. RedBird has ownership in the following organizations, and this is not all of them. This is just a few, the ones that I thought could potentially tie in to the Big 12 deal. The first and biggest one, in my opinion, is Skydance, who owns Paramount, who owns CBS. If the Big 12 is in a partnership with a company who's part owner in Skydance Paramount, then wouldn't that mean CBS might actually be a potential partner in the next TV deal? Think about that. You could get games streamed on Paramount Network. You could get games potentially on CBS. and all their sister channels. Heck, 24/7 Sports is even a sister company or a subsidiary, rather, of CBS. So that might come into play. And we've all heard about this, or at least most of us have heard, and most of you have probably heard about this deal where Netflix is buying out or wanting to buy out Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns TBS, TNT, and True TV. Well, at the last minute, Paramount came in and is trying to do a hostile takeover and trying to buy it out from underneath Netflix. If that happens, that means the Big 12 would be in partnership with a company who's part owner in Netflix. Are you connecting the dots here? Guys, Brett Yormark's not an idiot. And by the way, guess who else they have a partnership with? The Brooklyn freaking Nets, who Brett Yormark used to work for. Think about it. The Yes Network, who owns who is partners with the New York Yankees. The Fenway Sports Group, who has an ownership stake in the Boston Red Sox, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and several other professional sports franchises. I mentioned the UFL. They're partners with the UFL, who also happens to be partners with who? Disney, ESPN. Again, that means he would have a relationship with ESPN, CBS, and potentially Netflix. Put the pieces together, folks. Another company they have a relationship with. Now, I'm not as excited about this one, but it's Spring Hill, who's LeBron James's company. Now, I'm not a fan of LeBron James at all. I don't like the guy too much. But, again, I could see where that could tie into the Big 12. You could have LeBron James at your events potentially. You could have joint events together. That would be huge. There are a lot of overseas companies that RedBird Capital is involved with, like in London and places like that. Either them or Weatherford One have partners overseas. We all know Brett Yormark's looking to spread the Big 12 brand internationally. This helps you do that. Instead of leaning on your own relationships, you lean on the relationships carved out by these entities who already have the relationships worldwide with major players in entertainment, in technology, which Weatherford's big in, and in sports and other avenues, other ventures. Now, who's Weatherford Capital in bed with? Who are they partnered with? Well, they're primarily partners with technology and software companies, which could come in handy for the Big 12, right? Insurance companies, places like that, team insurance. There's a lot of tie-ins that could happen there. But when you look at the sports piece, you've got the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe Big 12 baseball teams could take advantage of that somehow or another. I could see some relationships there, some synergies there. IMG Academy, one of the biggest high school programs in the country, is partially owned by Weatherford Capital. I could see a future where you have the Big 12 IMG Academy or the Big 12 Academy, or maybe the IMG is a feeder program to Big 12 schools. Guys, there are so many synergies this brings. You've got, and I've already mentioned Collegiate Athletic Solutions, their partnership with RedBird, which apparently is the entity that's going to be doing business here with the Big 12, where you give them resources, you give them an ear, basically a consultant. There basically could be their consultants for them to help them get deals done. So that's why I think this is a great idea. And if I'm West Virginia, by the way, to get to that specifically, because I know most of you watching are probably West Virginia fans, because after all, I am a West Virginia channel, right? But when you look at West Virginia specifically, you take that $30 million, in my opinion. I know a lot of fans on social media don't think you should. It's described as a low-interest loan or a low-interest credit. Take the deal, man. Take the deal. If West Virginia takes the $30 million and uses it wisely, and it helps them win games and win conference championships, potentially get to the college football playoff, It will pay for itself very quickly. And you take all these other deals West Virginia's working on independently from this. I've talked about some of those this week with Omaha Steaks. They set up Mountaineer Travel, which is a travel platform where you can plan your trips and West Virginia gets a cut of the profits. There's other things they're working on. They've got the Hope Arena, Hope Coliseum deal now that's bringing in about $2 million a year. They're looking to build more private suites, $150 million investment. That $30 million could go a long way in helping with that project, could it not? It could go a long way in helping you go out and get a top-notch star quarterback or a couple big offensive linemen to help you win football games. And when you win football games, you get back on the national scene. You get more games on big-time networks, which does what? Adds more money, makes you more credible or more enticing to advertisers, makes them want to do more business with you, makes more students want to come to your school, which just feeds more money into the university. That's how this works, folks. That's why all these colleges are willing to spend so much money for their programs, because that is their number one marketing arm. We've talked about this on the show a gazillion times. Your football team and your men's basketball team are winning games and winning championships, more students come to your school. It's an absolute proven fact. The numbers bear it out. West Virginia saw a huge growth in student enrollment back in the 2005, 2006, 2007 era. Why? Because their football team was really good. They were on TV all the time because networks, when you're winning and you're good and you're exciting to watch, which they will be eventually, back to that again, the networks are going to want your games on their television. Just is. That's just how it works. So West Virginia, in my opinion, needs to take that $30 million loan. If this deal goes through, you take that $30 million loan and you use it to go help you win football games and men's basketball games. You use it to, if you need to help with the Sweets project, whatever you need to do with it. Let Wren Baker, let Golden Blue Enterprises, let them cook. Let them do what they need to do. I trust them. Right so far, Wren Baker's shown me that he's one of the greatest athletic directors in the country, and we need to let him and his partners and his staff do what they need to do to get West Virginia back on the winning track. So that's my thoughts on that. I know it's risky, and that's the downside. There is a risk here. If it doesn't work out, the league potentially has some debt lingering over their heads. The schools, if they accept that $30 million, has debt lingering over their heads that they have to pay back. And if it doesn't work, if you're not able to generate the revenue you think you are, then all of a sudden that's just more debt to your university. But guys, what happens if you don't do it? You get left even further behind. There is no way you even come close to the SEC and Big Ten if you don't do this. And I know a lot of fans are like, but Coos, the Big Ten and SEC are just going to do the same thing. Yes, they will. But you know what it does? It keeps you at the table. It keeps you with a seat at the table. If you don't do it, you're going to have the seat kicked out from under you, and you're going to fall on the floor on your hind end while they get up and walk away from the table. That's what's going to happen. So if you want to keep up with the Joneses in college sports, if you want your conference and the teams in your conference to stay competitive and relevant on a national stage, you got to do this. Let's face it, the Big 12 already gets disrespected on a national level by just about everybody. So you've got to do something like this, man. You've got to think outside the box. And if the Big 12 was the first one to do this, could it even open the door to expansion? Could there be some ACC teams sitting over there looking at the Big 12 going, man, I wish the ACC would do something like this. I would love for our conference to do something. Maybe a school like Louisville looks at the Big 12, and I got to credit Greg Pflugar for this. Heard him talk about this on his show. What if Louisville looks over at the Big 12 and goes, you know what? I want to be a part of that. We want a strategic partnership with RedBird and Weatherford. We want to be able to get, this these business ideas and all these opportunities that come with a deal like this. because right now the ACC is not providing that for us. Now, Jim Phillips apparently is trying. He did an interview the other day that said, hey, private equity is not, I forget how he worded it, but he basically said it's not the devil. I'm paraphrasing. It's not the boogeyman, I think is the word he used. And if you don't like it, I get it. I don't love it either. I hate that college sports has went down this road. But at the end of the day, I love my West Virginia Mountaineers enough to where I want them to do what they have to do to stay competitive. Now, I don't want them doing something shady or illegal, but you get my point. If you've got to take a loan out from private equity or private capital, whatever you want to call it, whatever you got to do, man, within legal bounds, ethical bounds, do it. Because I want you to win. And I'm 45 years old, and I would love to see West Virginia at some point in my lifetime win a national championship in a major sport. That's not going to happen if you don't do things like this. It probably won't anyway, to be realistic. But if you want them to even have a chance, you have to do things like this to have a chance. Or else the SEC Big Ten will just swallow you up. That's my rant. That's my 2 cents on this. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Let me grab the comments here. Thank you all for joining on this Saturday morning. John in the house. We've got John Kristofic in the house. We have Rodney Durrett. You've got Swabby G, Appalachia Africa Twin in the house, who's a channel member. He says, if I didn't use my credit card, Coos would starve. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Cheers, Beers, Mountaineers. Yeah, he's always been a huge supporter of me. Has Appalachia Africa Twin. I appreciate it. Cheers, Beers, Mountaineers says, I hate that college sports have come to this. With that being said, this is a huge opportunity and the best way for the Big 12 to catch up to SEC Big 10. It might only take a few years of PE to do it. Maybe. And maybe you do it long enough to where maybe the Big 10 continues. The Big 10 tried to do a deal similar to this. It was different. There would have been some ownership stakes. They would have been selling some ownership stake in Big 10 Enterprises, entity that they were going to set up. But there were 2 schools who were against it. USC and Michigan fought it tooth and nail. They got it stopped. At least got it postponed. If the Big 12 is able to get this deal done quickly, while the SEC and Big 10, are still in limbo about it and maybe they catch up for at least a couple years. You know what I'm saying? And help close that gap a little bit. But again, to me, you do things like this just to keep your seat at the table. At very least, and at best, you catch up a little bit. Henry of Scarlett says, who's also a VIP member, says, and rev share increases 4% every year. Bingo. Exactly, Henry. So the debt service, or not the debt service, but the financial obligations of these universities are just going to grow over time. It gets more and more over year for the next decade. Appalachia Africa Twin again says, I know it's cold and snowy for a lot of folks outside, but smash the like button for Coos' Corner Sports and share this video. Woo! Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You've always been a huge supporter of mine. I appreciate you a whole lot, brother. Luke Armourcost, this sounds good to me. Me too, Luke. I have no issue. I think the majority of Big 12 fans want this deal, but there are some out there who don't. Roy Wall in the house. We have Luke again, says that brother flops too much. Talking about LeBron, I'm assuming. We have Steve Ohio, Florida in the house. He says, spot on with the RedBird and their affiliations. Coos is diving deep to explain what is presently happening. Here's my goal, and I appreciate you saying that. I don't want to get on here and just repeat the same crap that Greg Flugar and everybody else did. And I shouldn't say crap, because what they do is good. That didn't sound good, did it? The same stuff. I don't want to repeat the same stuff. By no means that I intend that to be negative. I should not have used the word crap because it kind of hinted at that, but that was not my intent. I actually like Greg. But anyway, my point is I don't want to repeat the same stuff every other show's repeating. So I wanted to look at it from a different angle. Like, okay, what comes with a deal like this? Is it just a cash infusion? Who are the partnerships? Okay, you got partnerships. Who could those be with? But man, when you talk about partnerships with Paramount, CBS, potentially with Netflix, that's massive. That might be worth it alone. You talk about leverage when it comes to your new media deal in 2030, 2031. If you can leverage ESPN and Fox with CBS and Netflix, what does it do? It potentially raises the price of your deal, especially if they have a good relationship already with RedBird Weatherford or Weatherford. I mean, just opens so many doors. And I'm sure RedBird and Weatherford are not done building more relationships. And let's not overlook, this is probably, to me, a very minor piece to this, but let's not forget who Weatherford Capital is owned by. Drew Weatherford, who's on the board at Florida State. Now, I don't think Florida State's coming to the Big 12. I'm not going to sit here and say they are because I don't think that's going to happen. Is it possible? Yes, but I think it's an extreme long shot. Florida State wants to go to the Big 10 or the SEC, but there's a chance they can't get in the Big 10 or the SEC. And there's a chance that if this deal works out good enough, if Drew Weatherford has a big enough voice and enough, I don't know how much clout he has on that board, but if he has a lot and he sees this being a very, very lucrative opportunity for the Big 12, he might want to have Florida State be a part of that. Now, maybe that would be considered a conflict of interest. I don't know, so maybe he can't go down that road. He might have to just leave that alone. But long story short is, does this in any way get Florida State into the Big 12? I don't think so, but it's definitely something that's out there that I think should not be ignored. Lifted Diesel in the house says, let's freaking go. Thank you, Lifted Diesel. Luke thinks we should break away from the ESPN. The further we get away from ESPN, the better. I agree, Luke, but the problem is I just don't think you can completely get away from ESPN because they control so much. If you want to get games on ABC have a tendency to have the highest ratings. Some of that is due to the teams that are on it, but but you want that relationship with Disney if you can have it. Even if it's just a secondary, you've got to be on those channels, whether we like it or not. Lifted Diesel says, I am late, but make sure before you leave, you like, share, and subscribe. And no, I'm not drunk. I'm using text to talk, so there's that. You did a pretty darn good job. When I text to talk or talk to text or whatever, it doesn't turn out that well. They do not talk to text. Siri, whatever you want to call it, does not seem to understand my language. And Lifted Diesel. Bourbon Crazy in the house. So the money we spend, we eventually have to pay back. Of the $30 million, yes. Not all of it. But yes, yeah, it's basically like a credit card. It's a line of credit. But they can opt out. The $30 million has to be paid back. I don't know about the rest of the money that's going to be injected into the league. I don't know if that has to be paid back or not. I didn't see that detail included. But it's my understanding that $30 million to each school would have to be paid back with interest. But again, I think that's $30 million to me is not unheard of. If they see that they can earn the revenue they're going to earn from the rest of the deal, it might pay for itself, especially if the teams start winning. And I do think West Virginia is heading in the right direction to start winning again. Luke says, honestly, after the ESPN Plus season of basketball last year, I could not believe all of the televised games we got this year. We have less basketball games on ESPN Plus this year, though, thankfully, because of the deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. West Virginia is getting more games on those networks now. The Big 12 as a whole is. Ethan Man 80 in the house. Thank you for jumping in. Bourbon Crazy referring to this deal only, yes. The $30 million would have to be paid back. Steve Ohio, Florida says, let's not forget what $30 million could do to help Olympic sports. Bingo. Pay for your scholarships in Olympic sports. Keep Olympic sports. Upgrade facilities for Olympic sports. That's something Wren Baker's been wanting to do at West Virginia. He wants, right now, the gymnastics and volleyball teams have to use the Hope Coliseum for everything. Or the same facilities as everybody. They could have their own practice facilities, their own Coliseum or own gym potentially to play their games and matches in. So, yes, there's so much they could do. Great point, Steve, Ohio, Florida. I really appreciate you bringing that up, man. And at the end of the day, we as fans focus on football and men's basketball, and rightfully so. But the universities and the athletic departments have to think about everybody. They don't live in the bubble that we live in. They have to look at baseball. And for everybody with West Virginia, softball and track and field and tennis and golf and rifle and men's soccer, women's soccer, cross country. Just go down the list, wrestling, you name it, gymnastics, volleyball, women's basketball, baseball, you name it. They have to think about it all. Where we just focus on football and basketball. Let me go ahead and get to these super chats. Thank you so much, Appalachia Africa Twin, a.k.a. Swabby G. He says the single biggest thing for the Big 12 is simply to win big games like a deep CFP run for TTU. However, if these companies can help get more eyeballs on Big 12 sports and its universities, go for it. Abso-freaking-lutely, brother. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, and for that, for the super chat, you get really appreciate that. I really do. Means a lot. Had another super chat roll in from Luke Armacost. Thank you, brother. He says, thanks for the show, Coos. Luke, thank you for the $4 donation. Thank you for being a part of the Coos' Corner family. Thank you for joining the show on 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning is early for me. I'm not an early riser, but I got up early for you fine folks this morning. And I know a lot of you probably been up for 4 or 5 hours already, but not this guy. I'll stay up late and get up late when I can. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm not able to do that with my career, but when I can, I do it. What's up, Earth Ether in the house? Another paid VIP member. Thank you, sir, for joining the show. Yeah, they could get a rifle upgrade. You hit the nail on the head. Maybe I don't know how you upgrade the West Virginia rifle team. They win a national championship darn near every year. But anyway, they are the Alabama dynasty of rifle, baby. Earth Ether says someone had great foresight to get Wren, and there's people cooking behind the scenes that do know so. I rode who's that know. We are fortunate to have Wren and others. I know there's a typo in there somewhere, but I appreciate the super chat, and you were exactly right. Wren and his staff and Golden Blue Enterprises, they're all cooking. They're all thinking outside the box, finding all these little individual deals out here that, this deal might bring you in $1 million. This deal might bring you in 500,000. This deal might bring you in $2 million. But at the end of the day, it all adds up to what? Cash. And it's all about saving Olympic sports. They just added scholarships for Olympic sports. All that stuff has to be paid for. Jeff wants to go back to the BCS model for the playoff. I would have no issue with that, Jeff. We've got to get the subjectivity out of college sports, in my opinion. Devil Dog in the house. Devil Dog 44 says the entire reason Wren was brought to WVU was his fundraising abilities. Let him cook and let's go. Henry of Scallots. If they can't get into the Big Ten or SEC, they still want out of the ACC at all costs. They hate the ACC. And with what's going on with Notre Dame now, it might make that even more of the case. I mean, the ACC and Notre Dame are going after each other right now. Earth Ether, thank you for the $4.99 super chat, brother. He says, I love how you present the issues and are always on the topic at hand. With great info. Earth Ether, I thank you for being a part of the family. You're always watching my show. You're always commenting. Thank you so much for the $4.99 donation and for being a paid VIP member. And by the way, I also owe you a round of applause, and I also owe Luke. I forgot to give Luke his round of applause earlier. I need to come up with some more interesting sounds, but might have to get somebody from Weatherford Capital to show me how, because I'm freaking clueless when it comes to and I'm also cheap. I don't like to pay for the sound effects. But anyway, because most of the time, in order to avoid copyright infringement, you've got to pay for most of this stuff, which is fair. I get it. Typing is not great. Hey, man, you type fine. No big deal. You should see, here lately, man, every time I try to put something out on social media, on X, a.k.a. Twitter, I end up typing the stupid thing wrong. I'm so frustrated. My phone just updated with the new iOS update, and I like a lot of it, but there are some parts of it I don't. It actually made the letters on the keyboard smaller. Like, it was already hard enough to type on an iPhone. Now they make the letters smaller. Give me a break, man. What are we supposed to do? And I don't even have big hands. I feel sorry for you guys out there who have fat fingers or big hands. I don't know how you even type. And again, Siri doesn't recognize hillbilly talk, man. She puts all kinds of crazy words on there. Swabby G says, I'm headed to CC State Park for a couple days of cold weather camping. If you want to drop by later, Couz's Corner Sports for a bourbon, warm me up. Camp Creek State Park. Thank you, brother, for the invite. I much appreciate it. Yes, he likes to do cold weather camping. He is a tough SOB, man, because it would not be my cup of tea. Swabby G, I appreciate the invite. Man, I tell you, for somebody to want to sit out in the cold, but I do respect your love of nature and the fact you want to be out in nature even when it's cold outside. But thank you so much for the invite, brother. I appreciate you. Eugene says, love your show, brother, from North Carolina. Let's go Mountaineers. Keep up the good work. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you all for hopping in here. Steve Ohio, Florida says, typical iOS update, more frustrating than all the other updates. Yeah, it is, man. The last one changed the color of all my apps to where I could barely see them. This one actually changed it back to something I could see, but now the clock is almost freaking clear. It's really weird. Anyway, I don't know. And they got the search bar at the bottom of the screen now. It's just all kinds of craziness. But anyway, it is what it is. Lifted Diesel, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. He says, just for the hell of it, one of the best shows on YouTube, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. It means a lot. And again, I could not be thankful enough for you guys. I am thankful for you, but probably not as much as I should be. Y'all are such a great, great family. And without your support, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't still be doing this after 4 years, man. I've been doing this for over 4 years now. It's been fun, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. Be sure to come check us out over at wvsportschat.com for written content on the Mountaineers. We're planning to grow that site. We're bringing more writers on board sometime around the first of the year. We're going to keep rolling, baby. I want the Couz's Corner umbrella, YouTube, website, the whole bit we want to be the leader of the pack, man, out there, especially among fan-driven media. We'll never be 24/7 sports, and we'll never be rivals. But, man, as far as fan-driven media, we want to be the leader of the pack. And so come support us over at WV Sports Chat as well for good articles by myself and some others. EthanMan80 says, thank you so much for the $5 donation, brother. As a student in the Pride, Wren has even helped the band get a practice field of our own. I see him taking the $30 million and putting it towards facilities. You're probably right. I see him doing something like that. He might even put it towards the first phase of that new. He's really, really, really big on getting those suites put in. West Virginia is, I think, last or next to last in the Big 12 in the number of premium suites they offer. And according to what I've read, the project they're looking to do, yes, it's going to cost about $150 million, but he claims it's going to all be done in private donations. Not sure how they come up with $150 million in private donations, but that's what he said. And he says it could generate $5 million a year in additional revenue. Guys, that's a lot of money. That'll cover $5 million. An additional $5 million a year is a lot of freaking money. Heck, it might be more than that. I don't know. But that you add the Hope Coliseum deal to that, that's $7 million. You add all these other deals they're doing. I mean, the schools stepping up and doing more. They're on the right track, man. And I think this 30 million will be it could be the boost they need to get them up another step, another level. Lifted Diesel says, I can't read. You got to get more pictures on there. LOL on the website. Oh, man. Roy Wall, he says, we are in a strange weather pattern here, stormy. We have had 0 snow, and the highs are still in the 50s. The Rocky Mountains are dry as hell this year. Thank you, Roy, for that. Ethan Man says, if it makes it even more impactful, the Pride isn't even considered a part of the athletics department. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if they were or not. That's good to know, I guess. So what you're saying is the money he's bringing in would not even the money they're putting towards the Pride does not come out of the athletic department money. That's interesting to know. But listen, I'm going to jump off of here. Seymour's in the house. What's up, Seymour Wang? He says there will be sponsored patches on our uniforms very soon. Yes, and I know a lot of fans aren't going to like that, but it looks like that's going to be legal very soon. Some schools are already looking to cut deals. You might see GoMart patches or United Bank patches or who knows what patches on Western uniforms very soon. It's coming, folks. It's going to suck. I know we don't like the corporatization, if that's even a word, of college sports, but it's the hand we've been dealt, and the team you either get on the boat or you get left ashore. That's it. That's your two choices. Times they are changing, and those who aren't moving forward are moving backwards. I know it sucks, but it's poop or get off the pot, as they say. Steve, Ohio, Florida says your mention of Notre Dame ACC situation goes deeper than can be imagined. What comes out in the end is going to be surprising. Yeah, there are talks out there that there are teams out not just in the ACC, but in the entire country who are now freezing Notre Dame out of their scheduling. I don't know how far that'll go. I don't know how many teams are willing to, because it is a financial boom to get Notre Dame on your schedule. If Notre Dame comes into your stadium, that game's an automatic sellout, and it's going to make a ton of money. But schools are getting tired of Notre Dame pushing their weight around. And when it came out that they are now getting an automatic bid into the CFP if they're ranked in the top 12 and no other school's getting that, a lot of people are pissed about that. And, you know, a lot of them are already mad because Notre Dame is handpicking in the ACCs not even the ACC, but schools like Clemson, for example, and Notre Dame now have this scheduling agreement outside of the ACC agreement that they already have. That's got teams upset because they're not part of that deal, and it's going to take games off of their schedule. And now keep in mind, ACC is going to 9-game conference schedules now. That's one less game they can play against Notre Dame, or one less opportunity. At some point, folks, I mean, Notre Dame to me is getting squeezed more and more. It's getting tougher and tougher for them to remain independent. At what point do they choose to go into a conference? As of today, they're contractually obligated to go to the ACC, but we all know contracts can be broken, and Notre Dame probably has the money to buy their way out of that deal and join the Big Ten if they choose. I read Front Office Sports did an article yesterday how Notre Dame's TV viewership is dropping. They're no longer they were not even in the top 10 in TV viewership in college football this year. So they're not the brand they once were. So how much longer will NBC be willing to give them their own deal when they already have a deal with the Big Ten? I'm telling you, this thing's going to get more and more interesting as time goes. Notre Dame may eventually either have to join the conference, join a different conference, or join the ACC full-time, or make some kind of decision. And even with that, teams might still get tired of the ACC's bowing down to Notre Dame that they've been doing for all these years and get the heck out. And the Big 12 right now is going, you know what, baby? Look, we're over here cutting deals. We're moving forward. We're growing our pie. Come be a part of it. You can get a small slice of that pie. Anyway, Sheets patch on a West Virginia uniform, John says. Yeah, that would be cool. Stormy Cyclone says, Coos, any idea how they opt in or opt out on this PE? I do not know how it works exactly. I'm assuming it's just a matter of say, hey, we don't want that $30 million line of credit. I'm assuming that's how it works. But if you choose to go that route, you're going to fall behind. And it was even in Ross's article. It's a risk to say no to that because you're going to fall behind everybody else. And think about Utah. Utah can do this deal, and plus they have their own deal. So Utah could jump to the top of the line as far as finances, or at least near the top. Still may not pass Texas Tech and Cody Campbell's gazillion dollars, or even BYU for that matter, with all the money they have. But they could jump to the top of the league because of their own deal. But again, other schools can do deals like that too if they choose. So, Eth Man says Hope Gas already tainted the Coliseum's appearance. Cannot imagine a Hope Gas patch right next to the Big 12 patch. LOL. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to be at the Coliseum since they made the change. I've only seen pictures. Look, again, it's the world we live in. We just got to suck it up and deal with it. Or stop. I've seen some fans say that they're checking out. They're going to stop watching. I think that's the minority, though. And college sports is growing faster than it ever has, whether we want to believe that or not. So all this stuff is not going away. John says Notre Dame will never join a conference. Well, I mean, that's their fine. They're fine and dandy, don't join a conference. But when you get squeezed out, then don't come bitching and moaning and complaining about it. I mean, it's that simple. I get sick and tired of Notre Dame's elitism. I get sick and tired of Notre Dame's arrogance. And Pete Bavacqua just made it even worse. He's got almost everybody in the country pissed off at Notre Dame, the way he's acting. Brett Yormark called him out on it, says what he did was egregious, calling out Jim Phillips because the ACC saved Notre Dame during COVID. Think about that. Notre Dame would not have been able to fill a full schedule for during COVID, during the pandemic. But the ACC agreed to let them be a full member of the conference for 1 year so they could play a season of football. Because remember, the Big Ten at one time had decided to cancel the season. Now, they ended up having a partial season, but they only played 5 games, and I think they were all conference games. So who was Notre Dame going to play? Had they not gotten in the ACC during the pandemic, they'd have had to cancel their entire season, and think of the money they'd have lost. So Brett Yormark has a point. Pete Bavacqua probably should have kept his big fat mouth shut. Anyway, I'm still fed up over that, what he did. Barnaby Jones says, all this opportunity makes you want to smack your mama. Who wants some natties? That's me. Absolutely, brother. Ethan Mann says Notre Dame will join a conference if it helps them win and continue being a CFP contender. Their athletic director is smart enough to know that. Yep, he is. He is. All right. Well, I'm going to jump off of here. I've got some things I want to try to get done on this Saturday. It's why I decided to do this in the morning. For those of you, whether you're watching on the replay or on the live, please hit the thumbs up button. Please drop, if you're watching on the replay on a mobile device, there's a hype button below between download and thanks. Please hit that. If you don't mind, it really helps as well. Please share this with your family, friends, cousins, dog, cat, pig, whatever you got that can watch. All of it helps. Especially if they like West Virginia Mountaineer sports and the Big 12, I think they'll enjoy the content. Even if they like college sports, I think this is a show that anybody would be interested in. But anyway, I appreciate you all tuning in. Thanks to those of you who left super chats. Thank you for helping me keep the lights on. Appreciate every one of you. God bless you all. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. And as always, Q Country Roads.